Hello students, welcome to my class. I'm Keerti and today we are going to discuss about how sex determination takes place in case of humans, right? So let's start. See, in this topic we are going to discuss about the biological sex determination, how it is determined, right? It it is going to explain the chromosomal mechanism, the inheritance patterns, and the role of sex chromosome, by which whether the child is male or female, it is going to be determined by through this process of sex determination, right? So what is sex determination? It refers to the process through which the sexual characteristics of an organism are established. And in case of humans, it is controlled by specific chromosomes that are known as sex chromosome. Why sex chromosome? Because they are going to determine the sex of an unborn child, right? So we already know that human have 46 chromosome and they are arranged in 23 pairs, right? We already know that human beings are diploid, right? It means we have 2n content of DNA that is equal to 46 or 23 pairs, whatever you would like to write. In these 23 pairs, the 22 pairs is known as 22 pairs are known as autosomes, right? Autosomes. And the remaining one pair is known as sex chromosome. Because this one pair will actually going to determine the sex of a child. So these are in two forms, XX and XY. So these chromosomes will actually determine both the characters, right? The genetic traits and the biological sex of an individual, right? So we have to study more about the sex chromosome. See, all the females in case of humans are XX and males are XY. So you can see that the males are having two types of chromosome, X and Y, while all the females are having the same chromosome. So what will happen? Actually, this presence or absence of Y chromosome is going to determine whether the child or whether the individual is male or female, right? So how it is going to happen? See, we females, the human beings, the females produces only one type of gamete, right? And male produces two type of gametes, X and Y. And depending upon which type of gamete is going to fuse with the female gamete, it will lead to the determination of the sex of the unborn child, right? For example, see, this is male, this is female. All the gametes will be similar in case of female, right? And the male is having two type of gametes, X and Y. Okay, so if we are going to study this inheritance with the use of Punnett square, what will happen? See, two types of gametes will be formed in case of males, and female will form the similar type of gametes, that is gametes containing X chromosome only. What will happen if this first gamete of This female fuses with the first gamete of male. It will lead to a condition of XX. Another is XY. This is again XX. And this is again XY. So here what you can infer. Think. You can infer that first thing, that there is always 50% chance of, you know, 50% chance of whether the unborn child is a male or female, right? Which type of gamete, whether the gamete is, the gamete in case of human male is sperm, of course. So whether the sperm is carrying the X chromosome or the sperm is carrying the Y chromosome, this sperm will going to decide the sex, right? So there will always be chance, 50% chance, that whether the unborn child is going to be male or female. But you already know that in our society, most often women are blamed for giving birth to a female child. And that is why the female feticide rate is very high in case of India. So this chapter is all about to aware you people, the young generation, to know the fact that the female is not responsible for the sex of the child. It depends on male. What kind of sperm, which type of sperm is going to fertilize with the ovum of the female, that will determine the sex of the child. Because the females are producing the ovums which the females are producing are of same type, right? Every time a ovum will be formed and that ovum will contain X chromosome. But in case of male, two types of sperm is going to be formed, right? One containing X, another containing Y. So depending upon which type of sperm reaches to the ovum, which sperm is going to fertilize the ovum, we are going to determine the sex of the child, that unborn child, right? So this is the chromosomal basis of inheritance, because these are done by the chromosomes. What kind of chromosomes are going to get fused with the ovum, right? So this is what during fertilization, what is happening? If the sperm containing X is going to fuse with the egg containing X, egg will always contain X, right? So if XX combination is formed, the sex is female, and if XY is formed, it is male. So what we can eventually say, that the father's sperm determines the sex of the child and not the female. Just because the female is carrying the child for a period of 9 months, it doesn't mean that the sex of the child is going to be determined the female. It is the male who is going to determine the sex of the child, right? Okay. So what another role this Y chromosome plays? See, this Y chromosome, why it is different from X chromosome? Because Y chromosome carries an SRY gene. It is what? Sex determining region, Y, which actually helps in the testis development. So what will happen if the Y chromosome shows an absence of this gene? In the absence of this gene, what will happen? The embryo, the developing embryo, will develop as what? As a female, right? So this SRY genes play a very important role, right? This SRY gene encodes a protein. That protein will act as a transcription factor, initiating the differentiation of gonads into testes. See, you don't have to go into deep what are these transcription factors because these are related with the topic translation where protein synthesis is actually taking place. You just have to understand that this SRY gene determining, is actually going to form the male sex part, right? The male genital part. And it will be also responsible for the secretion of sex hormone, male sex hormone, the primary sex hormone, which is testosterone. What this testosterone will do, this will actually promotes the male sexual development. You already know what are the characters associated with male and what are these secondary sexual character, or in overall what are the characters by which we can say that the individual is male, right? So this SRY gene is the gene which is responsible for that development, okay? Right? So there are some stages where the actual gonads is going to develop. For example, the gonadal differentiation. It means the embryo that is going to differentiate whether into a male or female. This differentiation will actually take place in the 6 to 7 week of gestation period. The gestation period is what? The total of 9-month period during which the developing embryo is going to develop inside the female uterus. Right? There will be, of course, after development of gonads, there will be some kind of hormonal influence, right? In case of male, it will be testosterone, the hormone that is responsible for this influence. In case of female, the hormone synthesizes estrogen. And ultimately, this hormones, what will they do? They will develop the secondary sexual characters during the puberty, right? Hope this is clear, right? So overall picture says is the male is producing two kind of gametes depending upon which gamete is going to fuse with the female gamete, the type of child is formed, whether the unborn child is male or female, it depends. Or after, you can say after delivery, this whole soul, the determination of the sex of the child, it depends upon the father, right? So this is the chromosomal basis of inheritance. Chromosomes are deciding which type of chromosome is present in the gamete that will decide the sex of the child, right? So it may happen that in some cases there must be some kind of anomaly, right? So what happened in case of Klinefelter syndrome? Male born with an extra X chromosome. It means the genetic constituent of that particular male is XXY. So this presence of X chromosome, will induce some kind of female characters into that developing male, right? So for some kind of feminine character must be present in that male, right? So this happens because of some kind of abnormality during the gamete formation, right? Another one is Turner syndrome. This will happen when the female is born, but the other X part of the female is not present, right? And another one is either super female or males They are usually normal but show some minor physical effect. Because you already know the presence of Y or the presence of SRY gene is actually going to give some kind of characters, some kind of male character, right? So if it is present in more than one amount, of course, some kind of physical character will be there, right? So these three are the persons who born with some of the extra chromosome, whether it is X or Y or there is absence of chromosome, right? So you can say now you can conclude that in humans, sex is purely genetical, right? Environmental factors are playing no role in sex determination. Only the chromosome will decide whether the given individual is male or female. Environmental factors have no influence in the sex determination of human beings, right? But in some of the organisms, say some of the reptiles, there are, you know, cases or there are factors, some kind of environmental factors also play in the in which the whether the upcoming offspring is male or female. This environmental factor will also decide, right? But that is not the case with the humans, right? So see, this sex-linked inheritance, I already told you, if the genes are, if the chromosome, if the gamete is having X chromosome, it will, show some kind of characters. And if it is Y in nature, of course, it will give some kind of character to the developing male, right? So it has been found that some of the genes that are present on sex chromosome show special inheritance pattern. For example, the color blindness and the hemophilia disease, it is actually the X-linked gene. It means a particular X gene is responsible for color blindness and hemophilia, right? And some of the characters may be governed by this Y-linked genes. These are, for example, hairy ears or of course, the testis formation. We have already seen this because the SRY region is going to give the male character to the developing male, right? So this is the case of human male. What will happen in other organism? For example, the sex determination in case of birds is governed by this Z character, Z chromosome, I mean, right? Grasshopper, it is this X0 type, right? If both the X chromosome is there, the developing grasshopper will be female. If one of the X is absent, that will be male. And in case of some reptiles, the sex determination is actually done by the environmental factor, for example, temperature, right? So we can say that in reptiles, say the inheritance is not dependent upon the chromosome, right? Environmental factors are also inducing the changes in the developing offspring. It may develop into male, it may develop into female depending upon the temperature, right? So what is the significance? See, I already told you that there will always be 50% chance, 50% chance whether the developing embryo in the human uterus is male or female, right? So what does this ensures? This ensures proper ratio of males and females in a population. But nowadays we are altering this ratio. How? by doing female feticide, right? What we are doing, if we get to know in advance whether the developing child is male or female, if it is male, then it is okay. If it is a female and a family don't want a female, they will kill the developing fetus. So what is happening? This 50-50 ratio is getting disrupted. That is why the sex ratio is getting altered, right? There are more number of males as compared to females, right? So what we can infer from this discussion, that it is a myth that female is responsible for the sex of the child. It is the male who is deciding the sex of the child, right? But it is very unfortunate in our society, whether in most of the cases, even if the society is well educated, they are not aware with this simple fact that the female is not responsible for the sex of the child. It is the male who is deciding the type of gamete, the type of sperm, whether the sperm is having X chromosome or Y chromosome. It will decide whether the developing fetus is male or female, right? So this chapter is all about to, educate you, the young people, the young population, to make you people aware, right? To abrogate this practice of female feticide. Okay. So what we can conclude? We can conclude that the sex in case of humans, it is determined genetically by combination of X and Y chromosome. True, which happens of course during the fertilization. Of course, we will able to figure it out after the gonad development, after a period of say 6 to 7 week, 8 weeks, right? But the first step, the fertilization has occurred very initially. It is the first step, right? And this Y chromosome is having SRY gene, which is playing a pivotal role in male development. And why it is needed? It is needed because it is creating a biological diversity, which is necessary for survival of the species, right? So, hope you are now clear with the fact how this sex determination is happening in case of human beings, right? Okay. Even if you have any doubt, you can go through this slide. You can, go through your NCRT. And even if you are not able to grasp anything or any point is not clear to you, you can always come and contact me through my urban profile, and we can discuss it in a more elaborate way. Okay. So I'm ending this session. Till then, keep reading, keep revising, keep learning. Thank you for today's session. Thank you.